Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Read Disney Adventures. So just to refresh on what this is, it's just kind of more or less what it sounds like, is that I'm going to be looking through Disney Adventures magazines from my past. I don't have a lot of surviving ones, but I have enough that this can go on for a while, especially since apparently I do this once every half year, so I got enough fuel for a while. So today, I'm going to be reading through the special collector's issue, July 31st, 1996 of Disney Adventures, where it features the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And it even says in here, Notre Dame. Dame rhymes with mom, not lame. Now, this is very common for Disney Adventures, is that when they had a movie that was coming out, one of the animated films, which at this point in time was coming out basically every year, they would highlight it, and the whole issue would basically be a big special. Let's have a look, see what kind of fun, nostalgic pop culture nuggets there are here. This one's not in great shape. Out of all of the Disney Adventures that I do still have, this one is probably the one in the roughest shape. I gotta be careful when looking through it. Don't want the cover to come off. It looks like it's basically ready to. So right away, even the ads is very Hunchback of Notre Dame centric. Toys R Us. Now, for our American viewers, that is going to be a very sad memory, is Toys R Us here, because they just closed down, what was it, last year? Maybe even longer than that? Actually, I think I just heard that the very last Toys R Us in the U.S. closed down. So they were mostly closed, but apparently there were a few locations here and there, and the very last one in the U.S. did close down. I believe we still have them in Canada. I think there's one in Metrotown, actually not too far from where I live. So, lucky us. If you want to come support Toys R Us and you're down in the States, please come on up, because I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't stick around for too much longer, just based on how markets are going. I have some noisy cats. So this one just kind of highlights a few things from readers who came in. Nothing as priceless as that grade school rap thing that somebody wrote. So nothing quite as fun as that, other than this girl has a hilarious face. Not a badly drawn Buzz Lightyear, I gotta say. So that's cool. Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys what's hot and what's not, and what is the cool new slang of boarders. This encapsulates surfers and skateboarders. So heads up, this is universal for anyone who puts their feet onto a board. It doesn't say anything about snowboarders, actually, so I don't know for sure. Here are some cool slang words, in case you did not know. Kodak courage is that extra dose of energy once one gets around a camera. I can understand this, but in a different light. I don't do anything stupid like with skateboards where I purposely injure myself for a camera, but in real life I can be very shy and reserved. But if there's a camera somewhere that is recording me, I will do almost anything. At least I used to. I don't know. Maybe I'm not so brave these days. I mean, I'm too grown up for that. Knee bangers, long baggy shorts. Are those just like jorts? Jean jorts? Yeah, I don't know. Gel, calm down, relax. Grunts. Food. Apparently grunts means food. I'm hungry, let's go grab some grunts. That is terrible. Beached. Too full of grunts to surf or skate. Okay, so that kind of makes sense. Beached, like a beached whale. That one at least makes a little bit of sense. But grunts for food, I just can't get behind that. So let's take a look at what's hot and what's not. For clothes, what is hot is no fear shirts. Do you guys remember No Fear clothes and everything? Actually, I had a toy car with No Fear all over it. At first, I thought it said No Fair. Like that's no fair. It was like he lost the race. But no, I was just apparently bad at reading. Okay, so yeah, No Fear shirts were hot at the time. Checks out with me, actually. I remember that. Power Rangers underwear or shoes. But why underwear or shoes specifically? And do a lot of people look at your underwear when you're out in the elementary school playground? I don't know about that. Power Rangers shirts? Not off the table. For sports, hot basketball. Not mud wrestling. Is mud wrestling? I don't know if that's like a real sport. I don't know. TV shows, hot. Baywatch. Now, I think I might know why some teenagers might find Baywatch hot. Third Rock from the Sun. Not a bad sitcom, actually. Holds up. And also, hey, it brought us Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Only good came of Third Rock from the Sun. For not, in TV shows, Seinfeld. Now that's surprising. 96? Seinfeld was actually kind of in his prime. But also, not a show made for kids. So maybe it's that kids just don't get the humor. I didn't really like Seinfeld when I was a kid. I didn't get it. Nowadays, I kind of get the humor. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Come on, man. That's punching down. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is for little kids. Little kids. You can't... It's not in the same league as the other shows. Like, yeah, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was purity for, like, really young kids. That being said, as much respect as I have for Fred Rogers, I didn't really like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood either when I was really little. I found it boring. So, only in retrospect, after seeing what Mr. Rogers wanted to do for kids, do I respect his show a lot more. As a kid, wasn't into it. For music, hot. TLC. Sure, yeah, that checks out. Totally, yeah. Chasing Waterfalls, right around that time, perfect. Shania Twain. Yeah, Shania Twain was really popular. Not really my jam, because I hate country music. But as far as palatable country music goes, she wasn't bad. It was palatable, sometimes. Billy Ray Cyrus is in the not category, which, yeah, this was well after his heyday. Mr. Achy Breaky Heart. And not Metallica. Now, I'm not the biggest Metallica fan, but that one's kind of surprising, as like them being not cool in 1996. It seems like it was quite a few years later that they were kind of labeled as not cool because they had some albums that people hated, but this seems like a time when, liking Metallica was okay. But again, Metallica's not really, geared toward little kids. Like, the readers of Disney Adventure Magazine, that's not who Metallica is playing for. Here is an ad for Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco. I don't even remember if I watched Homeward Bound 2, but I watched the first one quite a bit. That's one of our VHS that was on repeat for sure in our house. I don't think I watched the second one. Was it any good? Let me know. Okay, so that basically covers everything that is not Hunchback of Notre Dame related. You gotta give them credit, is that Disney Adventures was pretty good at getting information about a movie, like stuff that kids might not find that interesting, and make it really interesting for kids. Like the animation technique and the art design and stuff like that. Like, actually, you know what? Art design, I was totally into it as a kid, so never mind. Like, looking at these sketches and particularly these concept arts. I always love concept art. Sometimes I just wish that movies were as cool looking as their concept art, like really early on. And that was often the case with Disney movies. Not that Disney movies aren't stylistic or cool. I think they are often very cool looking. But there is a sort of a washed process that they go through to become just a little more sanitized, a little less edgy. Case in point right here, this picture of Frollo, like that is a little less human looking, but a little more artistic and creative looking. Like this has a very stylistic design to it. Not that there was anything wrong with the design that Frollo wound up landing on, but like he just looked a lot more ordinary than that. Actually, some of this stuff, like this one right here, reminds me quite a bit of The Thief and the Cobbler, which was a film that never really... Well, honestly, that is a whole different story. And there's going to be much more interesting information, particularly if you look up the film Persistence of Vision. That gives you a lot of insight into that particular film. Maybe they changed some of these designs to look less like that, because there was already some accusations about Aladdin. And anyways, that's neither here nor there. Or one thing I find really interesting about this particular time in Disney's history is this stuff here. Like them talking about the crowds and how they were like, we can use computers to fill in people into the crowds. And how that was really groundbreaking. Like they even reference in here that they use it for The Lion King, and how the scene when all the wildebeests are coming down, like how that would take ages and ages to animate by hand, but if you're using computers to just basically cut and paste a bunch of wildebeests in there, you're able to have this really, really busy animated sequence that does not take nearly as long to create if everything was drawn by hand. The 90s in particular was just such an amazing time for advancements in visual technology, animation, and also like video games and animation. Hunchback of Notre Dame was definitely a milestone in that direction, and you could really see it in these crowd sequences, which are some of the most powerful scenes in the movie. Some of my favorite scenes in the movie are from, for example, the sanctuary scene where Quasimodo saves Esmeralda, brings her up to the top of the cathedral, and yells "Sanctuary." Just powerful stuff. And without that long shot over the crowd, I just feel like some of that impact would be lost. So, as much as sometimes like film purists harp on CG technology, it has allowed, especially in animation, just a lot of things that just couldn't really be done before to be done. Hunchback of Notre Dame gets a bit of a bad rep. I feel like it's not always as well remembered as some of the earlier Disney Renaissance films, but I feel like it's just as good as some of those. I know that there's some problems with the tone being a bit inconsistent because of the gargoyles. Let's admit it's because of the gargoyles. But I do feel like there's a lot more that works. So I personally am actually a big fan of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Although, to be fair, it has been a long time since I've seen it. So if I'm crazy, I'll let you know if I watch it down the road. So this highlights that so many Disney villains die by falling off cliffs or high ledges or something. So we got Lucifer the cat, falls out a window. He's a bad kitty. The Queen from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That lady's cray-cray. Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Ratigan from The Great Mouse Detective. Mick Leach from The Rescuers Down Under. There's one that people don't talk about enough, is Rescuers Down Under. Although I think my favorite of these deaths was Ratigan. That climactic showdown on Big Ben, whew, that was cool. Scar he didn't die from the fall. He just fell and then was eaten. I don't know if you should really count him in this, to be honest. And I dislike that they put Frollo in here, because although now we know that Frollo dies from falling, it says, oh, well, that would give away the end of the movie, wouldn't it? It's like you already gave away the end of the movie by basically putting him in this list of characters who died from heights. Come on, Disney Adventures, come on. The Voices of Notre Dame. This is something I always liked as a kid, especially, was the interviews with the voice actors. I didn't know who many of them were, but I did like reading what they had to say. And now having done a little bit of voice acting myself, I kind of appreciate the fact that there's a little bit of spotlight on them. At this point in time, they were casting well-known actors, but not exclusively. Only in this one, it was really Demi Moore and Kevin Kline who really were the big names in this, but they didn't even play the main characters. Tom Hulsey. Sorry, Tommy boy. Plays Quasimodo. There's a little bit of an interview with him. Tony Jay as Frollo. Now, Tony Jay is a prolific voice actor, and according to this, he's a Shakespearean actor, trained by the Royal Shakespeare Company. And that's kind of nice to hear, because I feel like some actors look down on different parts of acting. I think some people feel that voice acting is kind of like the failed actor's job. Like, oh yeah, he's just doing voiceover work. But it's not a demotion, really. It is just a different kind of acting. It demands something different from you than theater acting, just as film acting demands something different from you than theater acting, and theater acting demands something different from you than voice acting and film acting. There's just different things you need to do almost on a technical level. You got a microphone right here, about that far away from you. You don't have to project to an audience. And chances are, if you're doing voiceover, you're not doing Shakespeare. So it's cool that Tony Jay seemed to embrace the fact that his voice was so cool and just very comfortably fell into voice acting. And it even says if he's been in quite a few shows. Virgil in Mighty Max. I remember that. I only saw one episode of the Mighty Max cartoon, but I did remember Virgil. He was a chicken. Yeah, very strange casting choice, actually. Megabyte on Reboot. He mentions that, which is good. That's what I knew him best from. Drag on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Wraith in the new Mighty Ducks series that starts in the fall. So there's a little bit of a landmark for you. The Mighty Ducks cartoon, the one where there's those actual ducks who played hockey. Apparently Tony Jay was a character in that. Tony Jay unfortunately passed away in 2006. So alas, we lost a great voice in the voice acting world. So there's a bit on Demi Moore. Oh yeah, Jason Alexander played Hugo the Gargoyle. Jason Alexander was also no stranger to voice acting, as although most people know him from Seinfeld. Hopefully he didn't read this issue. He doesn't know that Seinfeld was not cool at this point in time. Around the same time, he was in an animated show called Duckman. And I don't see Duckman talked about much anymore. I didn't watch it all that much. I actually think I would want to watch it now just to see how it holds up and see if I get it now that I'm an adult. Clopin? Oh, he's a very mysterious character, but I think they basically animated the voice actor by the looks of it, so we'll skip a few of these things in these pages. There's a little bit of a feature on Notre Dame, which, what was it, last year or the year before? Where it burst into flames? Jeez, what do you do that makes a building made of stone burst into flames? I know that they managed to save a lot of Notre Dame. And it talks about other cathedrals in general. And man, the cathedral architecture is so cool. Nobody designs like this anymore. But maybe it's because it's just like not worth the amount of effort. I don't know. And some talking about gargoyles. I really want to know that guy's story. I really want to know what brought him to this place in his life. A little bit on Victor Hugo. Nothing to get too excited about. I don't know. And of course, the comic zone. Now, there are no other comics in this issue other than the comic adaptation of Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I think also was consistent. We used to have the Lion King one. It did not survive, unfortunately. But I think it was the same situation where it was just they had the adaptation, and it only was like part 1. I think they finished it in the next issue, which I unfortunately do not have. So I guess in order to figure out what happens next, I have to watch the movie. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen it. Oh, and there's a nice little PSA here about don't be mean to kids who look different than you. Well, if it's there, it probably needs to be said. Oh, and now it's on a little bit about CD-ROMs. Even the still of Hugo just sitting in amongst those bells. I never had that game. I never had that CD-ROM game. But it does remind me a lot of a few other ones that we had. We had Toy Story. We had a Toy Story CD-ROM and a Timon and Pumbaa Jungle Adventure CD-ROM. And the Timon and Pumbaa one was like mini games of varying quality. Apparently there's a Super Nintendo version of it too, but we had it on the PC, and it probably works a lot better on PC than it does Super Nintendo. Cool stuff. More Hunchback of Notre Dame merch, a few puzzles. Here's one puzzle in particular that you can see my old signature. It's really messy. I had this little like tiger paw symbol that I was like, yeah, that's my symbol that I'd put sometimes on a lot of things. Quasimodo says that Steve helped with my crossword as well. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a crossword these days in a kid's magazine that says the word gypsies in it. Since that word has started to become a no-no word. Probably for the best, you know, society does evolve for a reason, but at the same time, to call them gypsies in the context of Hunchback of Notre Dame is probably historically accurate. And only probably with a French accent. On the very last page, coming straight to video, Tom and Huck with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. And Brad Renfro? I don't know who that is. Never watched it. That one passed me by. And don't forget, everybody, to drink your Gatorade. Get your electrolytes. Michael Jordan's head says so. Well, there you go, everybody. I hope that was interesting. Again, I wanted to say that I do really like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or at least from what I remember of it. Really powerful moments, really interesting characters, like one of the finest villains in a Disney movie with like very mature themes and concepts. And yeah, it does get derailed a little bit from the gargoyles. But if you bring those back a little bit and change it so that they were legitimate figments of Quasimodo's imagination, I think that would have cleared everything up. I think I didn't like the fact that the gargoyles, they turned out to actually be alive, and they actually helped defend the cathedral. That just felt kind of weird to me, because it made total sense for him to have made friends with things that aren't alive and have a lot going on in his mind because of his isolation over time. But yeah, I should watch Hunchback of Notre Dame again and see how it holds up. And if you've seen it recently or you have very fond memories of it, let's talk about it in the comments down below. Would love to hear about it. Yeah, that is all for Let's Read Disney Adventures for July 31st, 1996. Thank you so much. We will see you in the next video.